I do recall who this guy is, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember his name. Next up we have, what's his face? I'm not good with names and there's a lot of them. Next up we have a character that you do not meet until much later in the game. Her name is Hope. You meet her in Act 3 when you finally make it to the House of Hope, which is Raphael's house. This poor girl has been tortured and just mentally wrecked, and it's a little bit of a trip when you're working with her because she is just so mentally shattered. But you can tell that she means well and that she's sorry about what happened with her sister, and I think she deserves, you know, some kudos for recognizing fault. It's a little bit funny when you're working with her and she keeps telling you to be quiet and then she ends up yelling. Probably shouldn't laugh at it because it's just because she's so mentally broken, but it does come off a little funny. I actually enjoyed my interactions with her and did end up saving her, so I'm gonna put her under good. Next up is Isabel. You meet her in Act 2 at the Last Light Inn. She is the daughter of Ketheric Thorm. She's got a kind of sad romance story with Dame Aelin, who you find out is the Night Song. I didn't feel like I really got to know her enough to care too much one way or another. Her powers are really cool. She's got a great design, but I don't know, I didn't have enough interaction with her to be like, yep, I'm attached or you suck. So I'm just gonna put her in the pass category. Next up is Jaheira. Disclaimer here, I have not played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, so I didn't have a prior attachment to Jaheira like other people may have had when they were playing this game, so just keep that in mind. However, what I did get from her out of Baldur's Gate 3, I enjoyed. All the interactions were fun. I liked her sense of humor. She was very plucky. She's got a lot of spunk to her. I enjoy that. And yeah, I thought she was overall an enjoyable character to be with, and liked her attitude and her mismatched family and her devotion to Minsk. I just thought all of that was good, so I'm gonna put her under success. Next up is one of the druids from the grove that you run into when you're first going to see Kaga. I don't remember her name, and honestly, this is another one where I'm like, I don't know why you're on here. You're not really a significant character. You're an NPC who plays a pretty small role. I do not know nearly enough about this character to care. I'm just gonna throw her in pass because there's not enough there. Next up is Karlach. Karlach is one of the core companion characters. You meet her in Act 1 and you're basically sent off on a quest to destroy her either by Will or the paladins you run into. I think the majority of us decided not to kill her because, I mean, come on, she's too badass. You don't want to do that. You don't want to take this away from your companions. Karlach is a really interesting character. You get to know her a lot, quite a bit throughout the story. She's very spunky. She's got, you know, a big heart and swings a big axe to go with it, depending on what weapon you give her. A lot of love in this character, and she's funny, and I can't really find any fault in her character. She's going under critical success. Next up is another big baddie, Ketheric Thorm, who you meet and must subdue in Act 2. Well, unless you're doing an evil run, then I guess you're working with him. So I like his voice actor too, J.K. Simmons. I did not find him to be as interesting of a boss as I did Gortash. It's a little bit of a sad story, you know, how he came in league with the Absolute and everything. It didn't make me empathize too much with his character. I also didn't spend all that much time with him. Again, this might be different if you do an evil run. Maybe you spend more time with him. So I couldn't get too attached either way. I didn't really feel that negative about him either, though. Even though he was a bad guy and I needed to defeat him, it just seemed like he was kind of a victim of fatherhood, honestly, because he did bad things to get back his daughter Isabel. So I'm just gonna put him under pass. Next up is Lizelle, another origin character, and of course you meet her pretty early on. You meet her when you're still on the Nautiloid, actually, and you can, you know, traverse the rest of the Nautiloid with her helping you out. Lizelle is a character that kind of goes both ways for me. On the one hand, she's very strong and determined and ambitious, and I like that. On the other hand, she's a right pain in the butt. She always wants to like dominate the quests that you're doing and just constantly bugging you to do her quest lines. Like, I got other stuff to do, you can wait your turn. So she can definitely be a thorn in the side, and her and Shadowheart get into it. And yeah, not my favorite origin character, but definitely not a character that I don't appreciate to a certain extent, so I'm going to put her under good. Next up is another tiefling from the Druid Grove. I believe these two here are Arabella's parents. Again, not sure why they're here. I mean, by Act 2 they're dead, so I'm not, there's really nothing connecting you to these characters other than, hey, I saved your daughter. I'm just gonna put both of them under pass. Next up is Maul, one of the tiefling children at the Druid Grove. She's got like a bit of a black market thing going on with some other tiefling children. She's in the scavenging business, if you will. She's got a very plucky attitude. She's very determined. She's very smart. Her being on this list definitely makes more sense than the other tieflings here that I've had to put into pass lane, because you actually do run into her multiple times. You run into her in Act 1, where you first meet her. You run into her again in Act 2. And you may even run into her in Act 3. So you do get to know more of her character. She's got a really interesting personality. I like her attitude and her street smarts and her devotion to her crew. So I'm gonna put her under good. Next up is Minsk, and another disclaimer here. Again, did not play Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, so I do not have any former attachment to this character. Please keep that in mind. However, Minsk in Baldur's Gate 3, at least, is a lovely character who is funny and silly and brutish and really fun to be around and have conversations with. And he's got Boo, so I mean, that automatically gives him a bump right there. So Minsk, I'm gonna call a critical success. I would have actually liked to spend more time with Minsk in the game than I got to. Next up is Minthara. Minthara actually can be a companion character if you're doing an evil run, or if you want to start evil and then turn good later. You might have to kill her at that point. I have never had her as a companion though, because I've always done good runs, so I end up killing her because I don't want to attack the Druid Grove. So I have not gotten to know her in the way that you would if she actually became a companion. I may have to do an evil run just so that I can experience that. She seems interesting from the little bit of interaction that I did have with her. She seems determined. I don't like that she has such, I don't know if I can call it blind faith, but maybe close enough to it, considering I don't think she's ever seen the absolute. So I definitely question her faith. To each his own. So I think I'm just gonna put Minthara in pass for now, because I just haven't had enough interaction with her to determine if that would be enjoyable or not. Next up is Mizora. She is the patron to Will. You run into her multiple times throughout the course of the story. She's definitely an interesting character, can be a bit of a pain in the butt, but it can also be a good ally to have. Based on the interactions with her, I think I would put her under, I think I'd actually put her under good. She's definitely not a good character, but I liked my interactions with her. She was interesting. Next up is the main baddie of all baddies, the Absolute, or the Nether Brain. I mean, none of those interactions are fun. The Nether Brain is a pain in the butt. I'm just gonna put it down here because it's not like it's fun to interact with this one, so I'm just gonna put that under critical fail. But a boss fight should be challenging, so I acknowledge that. Next up is Dame Aelin, aka Night Song. You find her in Act 2. You have the option of freeing her or letting Shadowheart kill her. Or I guess you could kill her too, although Shadowheart would probably be pretty pissed at you. I always try to talk Shadowheart out of killing her because Dame Aelin is a pretty formidable ally in the battle against Ketheric Thorm, and can be an ally later on in the game as well. Really cool from the perspective of like design and everything. She's an Aasimar, so she's crazy tall, she has wings. Very cool design for sure. As far as how I feel about her as a character, I like that she's strong and determined, but that's kind of all I like about her. The rest of her is like, don't really care either way. So I'm actually gonna put her under pass. What am I looking at? So I believe the next one on this list has to do with if you break your oath as a paladin, because I don't actually recognize it, but I haven't done a paladin run. So I think that's what this is. Not 100% sure. I'm just gonna put it under pass because I really don't recognize that one. All right, next up is Orin, number 3 of the big baddies. Orin is just so messed up. She worships the god of murder and is just completely messed up in the head and loves killing things, takes a lot of pleasure out of it, wears creepy armor, talks creepy, acts creepy, just creepy all around. You're going under critical failure. You creep me out. Okay, next is Prince Orpheus, and you first come across him in
3 hours later.
Act 3, like the beginning of Act 3, you find out about him. He is basically the rightful heir to the Githyanki throne. He's been imprisoned for a very long time. His power is helping keep your tadpole at bay. He's imprisoned within the artifact where your guardian is. Can't say that I really like many of the Githyankis too much because they've got such attitudes on them. What I've been saying about the whole holier than thou thing, they've got that really bad. Per Githyanki usual, he has an attitude on him. Now, he doesn't just like kill you outright when you free him, which is great, but he definitely wants to. Like, you can tell that if he thought that he could deal with the absolute on his own, that he'd just get rid of you and your companions. So can't say I really cared for him much. He was helpful, but yeah, I'm just gonna put him under bad. I'm not gonna put him under critical failure because he is willing to become an illithid to fight off the absolute, so like he does make a sacrifice there, but yeah, just wasn't really a fan. Owl Bear Cub is automatically getting a critical success because it's adorable. Also, it can be an ally later on. Next up is I can't remember her name, but she's one of the gnomes that you meet in Act 2, Moonrise Towers. I'm actually kind of surprised she's on the list because you don't get nearly as much interaction with her as you do with like Barkus. Don't really have an opinion on her either way. I'm just gonna put her in pass. Next up is one of the, I guess, mini bosses of Act 1, DarxieLand. Don't have a lot of thoughts on DarxieLand other than he was a pain in the ass to fight, so you're going under bad. Next up is Raphael. Raphael was a really interesting character. Definitely a villain for sure, and I think it was the right thing of me to kill him, but I kind of liked him. It was one of those villains where you're kind of intrigued the whole time, like you know you're gonna have to kill him at some point, but you're like, well, let's see how far I can get with this before killing him, because he's interesting. I want to hear what he has to say. Yeah, I definitely enjoyed my interactions with him, enjoyed it when he came on screen. He's got some really killer boss music too. I'm gonna put him under success actually, which I know is kind of high praise for someone I end up killing, but I enjoyed his company. Next up, we've got one of the goblins. I can't remember her name either, but you meet her in Act 1. She's been captured by the tieflings. You can try to save her from being killed, or you can just let her be killed, either or. I think her name is like Saza? I don't know that I have strong opinions either way. She's got a little bit of an attitude to her, not surprising. Definitely feels herself to be faithful to the absolute. Yeah, I'll just put her under bad. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember this next guy. I probably should, but I don't. I'm just gonna put him under pass. Somebody in the comments remind me who the heck this character is. Next we have the goodest boy of all the boys, and he is automatically getting a critical success. There you go, Scratch. You're in with the other animals. Next up we have Shadowheart, another origin companion. I was a little harsh on Shadowheart before finishing the game, I will admit. There was a lot I didn't know about her character yet, and she's just so standoffish and bitchy in the first like act or so that I was like, ugh, I don't like dealing with her. Now that I've gotten to know her character and her backstory and understand most of her memories are gone and she's been manipulated and used and all that stuff, I have a little more empathy for her. Still not my favorite character, but I don't dislike her the way I used to, so I'm gonna put her under good. Next up, I believe her name is Mishka, Gale's cat-like companion, and I believe the first time you see her is Act 3. I did not find her before Act 3, so I do think that is the first time. She's getting an automatic critical success. All the animals get crit successes. Next up is the Emperor, or as you know him or her originally, the Guardian. I was not super shocked in Act 3 when it ended up being an Illithid. The Emperor is definitely an interesting character. I wasn't a fan though, and the reason I wasn't a fan is because he kept trying to push me to become a Illithid, and I was like, no, I don't want the tentacles. Stop trying to make me sprout. I got really sick of him because he just kept going on and on about becoming a Illithid, take this astral touched tadpole, become a Illithid, and it's like, no, I can do this fight without being an Illithid, and he was just really pushy and pissed me off, so he's gonna go under bad. Next up is just one of the squirrels you run into, but it's a squirrel. It gets critical success. And then next up is another one of the tiefling children from Act 1 in the Druid Grove. I am sorry, I am not going to remember the names of characters that don't have big roles in the game. That's just that my brain is not going to retain that information. Another one that I don't feel should be on the list, you're just gonna go and pass. I'm not sure why the intellect devourer from Act 1 is here either. Technically, there's a ton of intellect devourers. This is just one of many. Just bad. You're a bad intellect devourer. This is Valeria. You meet in Act 3, and Valeria is investigating some murders and doing an absolute shit job of it. She's quite cowardly, and yeah, just didn't really care for her, to be honest. She can be your ally at the end, which is cool, but yeah, she's just kind of a coward. Doesn't really do her job well, so I'm gonna put her under bad. Next up is Volo. Volo you meet in Act 1 at the Druid Grove. He is a very interesting character. Not the brightest bulb in the bunch, but always good for entertainment. He'll be with you for the majority of the game if you don't do the eye extraction, which I did not do because I can't even stand the idea of it. Volo is always good for entertainment. He's a critical success. I love this character. Next up is Withers. Withers is an interesting character. You meet him relatively early on in Act 1. He's actually super important because he gives you access to change your class and to get hirelings and to resurrect party members, so he's actually super duper important in the game. I don't know what his whole story is. Even after completing the game, I still don't know who he truly is. Maybe I just don't know enough of the lore in regards to Baldur's Gate. But he was very interesting, and I liked his short, quippy responses, and he was very important, so I'm going to put him under success. Next up is Will, and the last origin character on the list here. Will is interesting, but I wouldn't say he's as interesting as the other origin characters. I actually found him a little bit dull in comparison. He's a nice character, and you know, good to have conversations with and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't find myself especially attached to him. Maybe I will feel differently about that after I finish my playthrough where I'm currently romancing him. But as of right now, just good, no more, no less. Next up is Zevlor. He's one of the tieflings you meet in Act 1 at the Druid Grove. He's the one that gets into a bit of a tiff with this guy here. Kind of hard to say. I admire Zevlor for trying to take care of his people. He kind of screws up in Act 2, kind of messes that up, but then he tries to, you know, redeem himself, so kudos for that. I think I would just say good. I like his character, but not like a super amount, maybe just because I don't get to know him well enough. Oh shit, that wasn't Maul earlier. So I made a mistake earlier in thinking that this tiefling child was Maul. This is actually Maul down here. I don't remember which one this one is, to be honest with you, which is probably why I confused her with Maul. So I'm just gonna move her down to pass, because if I don't remember her, then she obviously wasn't that important to me. And I will move Maul into good. Next up, we have another couple squirrels that you end up meeting. I believe these two are at the Druid Grove. They're squirrels, they automatically get critical success. Next up, I do not remember this guy's name. However, I do remember him. You meet him in Act 3 when you go to the Steel Watch Factory. He's been in prison there, and he's basically staging a coup. and you can go in there and help him fight off Gortash's forces, essentially. So yeah, I'm sorry, I do not remember your name. You were not important enough to my playthrough for me to remember your name, but I do at least remember you. Seemed okay, but I'm just gonna put him under pass because I don't know, I didn't feel like he was all that critical. And the last one on the list here, guess it makes sense that she made the list since she can't actually join your camp. Her name is Yenna. You meet her in Act 3 in Worm's Crossing. She's looking for her mom. She needs food. She will ask to join your camp, and I did let her. She didn't survive though because of things that happened later in the camp, so I didn't get to know her too well, unfortunately, but she seemed like a good kid. She seemed nice, and I felt bad that she died. I'm gonna put her under good. All right, and that was a super duper long tier list. Holy crap, but there you have it, and I apologize for all the names I forgot. Hope you enjoyed. I plan on doing more tier lists. If you have any tier list ideas that you would like to see, it's very easy to make tier lists on Tier Maker, so throw them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.